Hello everyone and welcome back to Season 2 of the Reddit League F1 Challenge. We are headed off to Singapore for the Xbox division, round 7 of this 12-round season. We've got some big news in the Xbox division just coming in. We've got the two divisions are officially going to be combining and utilizing that combined standings. No longer are they going to be kept track of as two separate entities, so they will all be racing together. So what that's done is that's changed up the overall standings, obviously, because we've got now a bunch of drivers added in. But so the Division 1 cars will also be reverting back to the current day scoring formats. But leading the championship out front coming into round 7 at the halfway point, we've got MJ Povey on 93 points. Fast 6 driver in the Ferrari is second place, 76 points to his name, only 17 points back of MJ Povey. Golly Mooms holds down P3 in the championship on 60 points, and Quimbulas 10 points back of him in P4. Voki, though, even closer, only 9 points back in P5. Then we've got Racer04, who was on 27 points. Onslaught, who has 22 points. Chuck SRQ, who was leading the Division 2 team, is on 20 points of his own now. Wall Street Gay Bear is on 19 points, so 1 point back of Chuck SRQ in the combined standings. Habs fan Nick, P10 on 14 points for the season. And P11, we've got MD the First, who is on 12 points. Alejandro Hayes has 7 points to his name, right next to his Racing Point teammate, the Kel89, who has 4 points. El Gloverino has 3 points on the season. AWD Turbo Guy and Stanier are tied with 2 points apiece. Sam Beam and It's Baker still on 0 points coming in, but that puts 18 drivers in the current championship. A few drivers have fallen off, obviously. And we are getting ready to move our way into qualifying. And as now we see the TV pictures, the rain coming down here in Singapore for this qualifying session. So a lot of the practice in the dry running has been thrown for an absolute loop for these drivers as they get ready to head out and now take on a wet qualifying session. I would be surprised to see any cars coming out of the pit lanes with the similar gusto that they normally have in a dry qualifying session, as everybody's getting kind of settled in and figuring out just what kind of setups they're running. They're going to check the weather reports for the race as well. And I can say that the weather reports say that the race will be dry throughout. So we're going to see a lot of cars on track trying to qualify on a wet track with dry setups, so as not to compromise their overall race performance. But it is heavy rain right now, so look to see when cars do finally get going to be out on that blue-walled full wet tire. Now, as 30 seconds have passed in the session, we've yet to see any stirring from any of the pit boxes so far. It looks like we got some action in the Mercedes camp. We've got, looks like, the Racing Points and the Williams first pulling out as well. So a couple of cars getting out on track. We will see who's going to turn in the first lap times of the day. MJ Povey is the first one to the green light at the end of the pit lane. You see that very tight pit exit there, very tight against the wall there. Have to be very careful, and you can just see getting to grips with that wet compound tire, really trying to move all that water off the racing line. Now, as the session goes on, look to see how stuff dries out if a line starts to form, and you can see already yellow flags as it looks like the Kel89, that pink dot on the track map, has come to a stop on his pit exit. He was right behind MJ Povey as they hit the throttle, but it looks like he has had a bit of a spin as they're getting used to it. MJ Povey just kind of trying to get some heat into the tires. Obviously, that track map turning red normally means an invalidated lap time, but since he is just on an out lap, there is no worries whatsoever. You can see it kicking up all of that spray. No real dry line to be seen so far, and it looks like a lot of other cars are finally making their way out onto the track. Singapore, I would say, one of the toughest tracks on the calendar. Very technical, hard to get in rhythm in a lot of sections, and then also you've got all of the barriers. There is no make a mistake and take to the runoff in a lot of these corners. You've really got to nail your lap, otherwise you're going to be changing some front wings, and you throw the extra wet track in the rain on top of that, and that definitely makes for a considerable challenge. But it looks like just about everybody's out on track. The only ones opting to stay in the pits so far, Sam Beam, AWD Turbo Guy, and Alejandro Hayes. Everybody else getting their move on and getting onto the track there. And another thing you'll notice during these wet qualifying sessions, usually dry qualifying session, you're going to fuel up the car in order to do an out lap, a very fast flying lap, and then an in lap. wet qualifying sessions, you'll see a little bit more fuel in the cars as the cars will circulate around for a few more laps at a time, just trying to get a good feel. As you can see, the back end really getting wild on MJ Povey as he crosses the line to start his first flying lap, hugging to that right side to really open up the entry into turn 1. A good switchback for turn 2. And then the very slow left-hander of turn 3. Really, track opens up a bit, but it is not a very high grip section of the circuit. You really have to worry about how the car grips up. Then you pitch it in for turn 4, that quick right-hander that really leads on to the longest and best overtaking opportunity on the track. There's a big DRS zone, obviously no DRS enabled right now because of the wet conditions, and the heavy braking for turn 7. Look for that to be one of the action zones around the track. Otherwise, with all the walls and the tight switchback corners, not a ton of overtaking ability around this track. It's not quite as strictly follow the leader as Monaco may be, but there are sections, especially Sector 3, where you can really get caught up behind another car, and patience may be the name of the game. But Povey still with a valid lap time as he comes through the infamous bridge section here. A very tough little braking zone as it's pitching to the right to set up for a tight left-hander while you're hard on the brakes, and it's not a particularly smooth braking point either. You've got to really kind of manage your way over the bumps, but obviously Povey's setting another purple sector because he is the first to be setting valid lap times. Back end getting a little wild on the throttle there coming out of turn 14, as now he gets to come into the pile of 90-degree right, left, left, right, right, left to end the lap before that last set of 2 quick left-handers. You see fighting the wheel to keep that car facing straight, and lots of lock put in, so definitely kind of battling the car. We'll see what kind of lap time he is able to put in and set the early bar smooth over that curbing, keeps the car in control, crosses the line there, goes a 157.112, so you can see just how much the wet running can do. Typically you'll see lap times in the 1 minute 34s for qualifying in the dry sessions, but in this wet weather, definitely a very tough tall order for these drivers to manage. Onslaught coming across the line 2:01, so just outside of that 2-minute mark. And not much of a dry line seems to be forming just yet, as the tires circulating are going to move quite a bit of that water around. But really we'll look to see if the rain actually stops and allows the track to dry out. But here's Fast 6 driver coming through as Racer 04 has gone up into P2, the Kel 89 P5 with that 204, and Fast 6 driver jumping up to P2, only about a second and a half off of MJ Povey's time there. We've got Stanya dropping into P5 there. Apologies for saying his name wrong in the last race he took part in. He had to miss Austria, but he joined us for his season debut in Monza, and I was calling him Stainer. Stanya is what we're going with for him. That's just a little bit of switching the name up. But ooh, somebody's sideways on the exit of the final corner there. Looks like a Mercedes of Wall Street there had some trouble. Looks to be that slow moving. Or no, rather, somebody else has moved slow. That's Wall Street is all the way back in Sector 3 as his teammate is still in the pit lane. So somebody was moving slowly and made it tough to get around. But as the lap times tumble in here, the layout is MJ Povey, Fast 6 driver, Habs Van Nick as teammate in the other Alfa Romeo Voki, and both of the Renaults, Racer 04 and Onslaught, El Glavarino, Quimbulas, Gallimums, Stanya, the Kel 89, MD the first, and then we've still got Sam Beam, AWD Turbo Guy, Chuck SRQ, Alejandro Hayes, and Wall Street Gabe Barrow to set their first lap times of the day. Ooh, it looks like somebody's gotten into the wall. Gallimums, lots of throttle lost on the exit there and has gotten into the wall. Looks to be a bit of wing damage. Here we are with Quimbulas, who's put in a 2:02. Looks to be on yet another flying lap, trying to pitch it in for that tight right-hander as they head into the bridge section there. Singapore, a very bumpy track, but not a particularly high degradation track, so the tires will last a bit, but they have an interesting, almost graining style phase where they have tons of performance in the first 5 laps, then they tend to trail off a little bit and then level back off and maintain their performance for a long time. So it's really all about optimizing what those first few laps you can do in there. As you can see, the Alfa Romeo getting a little sideways behind in the cameras, and Really just trying to nurse the car around, keeping the throttle in without stepping it out. And Quimbulas had trouble in Austria last week with the wet weather during that race there, getting involved in a collision with the Kel 89. Luckily for him, looks like the wet weather is only going to be in qualifying, so there'll be no other cars. Ooh, big oversteer moment, able to catch it before it gets into the barrier there. Very lucky for him there, and he's run out a little bit wide, although I don't think he's kept his foot in enough to invalidate that time. It does improve to a 2:01.276. The Alfa Romeo crossing the line behind of him. Not improving there. Here we are on with Chuck SRQ in the Red Bull. I believe that will be his permanent seat for the rest of this season, if I'm not mistaken. But really, you'll see a lot of early short shifting, not letting those revs build up to keep the cars in a little bit more of a lower torque kind of setup to allow them to grip up in the acceleration phase. He's run a little bit deep there, almost gets into the wall. But it looks like he's kept it out of the barriers there. Very tough to manage those braking zones when you've got no grip there. We are starting to see a little bit of a line forming, so maybe we'll see some cars improving on their lap times. Lap on lap. Ooh, he's very close to swinging the back end around. And oh, that's going to cost him a lot of lap time. He's managed to keep it out of the walls, but drifting his way through the final sector there, and that is going to cost him some lap time. We'll see if he's able to see what time he can put up. He's still got a valid lap, but definitely cost him time. Goes a 2 minutes, .895 up into P7 provisionally at this stage. 8 minutes left to go in the session, so right on about the halfway point. Looks like MJ Povey and Fast 6 driver who have both reloaded some tires and are on an out lap of their own to get a fresh set of laps in. Voki is still out. Chuck Quimbulas and El Glavarino and the Kel still all out circulating some laps there. And here is Voki on those full wet tires. Red track map there, so he's invalidated. El Glavarino, though, glitching around just a little bit. Looked to have gotten in the wall, but it looks like his car is just fine as he comes through the final corner. Looks to improve. Does improve. Goes P6 overall now. 2 minutes, .096. Now, wet qualifying is always interesting to mix up the grid order. People are usually at the top of the grid there may find themselves fallen back if they've over-practiced in dry, and then some of the other drivers may have an opportunity to jump up. But Wall Street Gay Bear out on those full wet tires now, setting a lap time of his own. Goes purple, it looks like, in the first sector, so a very quick early lap time. And it looks like the rain is starting to subside just a little bit. Still falling, but it looks like you can actually see kind of the pathing in some of the angles that the cars are taking there to clear that water away. But Wall Street pitching it in fairly deep there. May not the ideal line, but he doesn't have a lap time yet. He just needs to keep one clean, and then he can improve from there. Ooh, back end getting very Larry on him. Avoid that inside wall. One thing that's can be a little bit surprising when driving these cars is the rear tires are wider than those front tires. So sometimes you can think, oh, I've cleared something with your front tires, and then just the little bit of wall sticking out just catches the side of that rear tire and can cause some trouble in some of these very sharp-walled corners. But Wall Street keeping it off of the walls so far, as the back end still trying to do a bit of a dance. That means he's doing well to push it right up to that limit there. Just little bits of oversteer and correction means you're riding that limit of grip quite up close to the border there. So here he's swinging out wide, taking that exit curbing before that wall juts back in, and now pitching it in for the final two corners, carrying a lot of speed. And he's gone up into P2, only 6/10 back of MJ Povey. So puts himself on the front row provisionally with only 6 minutes left to go in this session. Sam Beam, AWD Turbo Guy, and Alejandro Hayes still looking to set a lap time for this one, but here is Fast 6 driver. We'll see how he's doing compared to his previous bests on his splits as he shoots past one of the Renaults. He is almost a full second up on his previous best time, and that's going to put him in the conversation for P2 if he can improve a little bit more. If he improves by about 1.4 seconds, then he'll put himself onto pole position. So we'll see if he can carry the improvements he's taken through the first two sectors through the final sector as well, and go fast enough to put himself onto pole position. He is coming through the final two corners, keeping it very tight to the inside, able to get some good grip, and that does put him provisionally on pole, a 156.9, so improved significantly and able to put himself provisionally onto pole position with only 5 minutes left to go in this qualifying session. Looks like Racer 04 has had a bit of a going around there. Looks like the front wing still is intact and okay, so he's survived that one. That will certainly hurt his lap times. But checking out more cars down the grid, Stanya, who was on a 202.6 as his previous best lap there, trying to get in. Ooh, just a little bit of a touch of that wall there. That's going to hurt that right end plate. Looks like it might be missing. And ooh, very deep, and that's going to take his entire front wing off. Brutal. That just couldn't get the car slowed down, and that is going to really hurt his chance. He's got enough time to get around to the pit lane, get that new front wing on, and go out for one more try, I think. But with all the other cars going through, it looks like he may just be choosing to park it up. Not sure. He took to the escape road. Might be just to let the few cars through. Spun up those rear tires quite nicely, doing some burnouts. And here we are with Sam Beam as he's getting ready to come through into the hairpin right after the bridge. He's got to keep the car nice and steady as he's getting on the throttle there to not spin up those rear tires and lose the back end. We've got some more cars stopped in two sections there. Looks like a Haas and Sam Beam. Sam Beam goes through past Stanya. Alejandro Hayes sets a valid lap time now. Goes a 204.971, and ooh, very deep goes Sam Beam, way off the track on the inside, but able to keep it out of the walls, it looks like. It's not going to be a blistering lap time, but he is still valid at this point, even though he's a run a bit off the track. He did not gain any time from it, so they elected to allow him to keep that lap time. Here he is coming across to set his first valid lap time. A little bit of a wiggle there. Goes up into P14 provisionally, just behind Galimooms in the Red Bull. So he is on a 202.462. With about 2 minutes left to go in the session. There's a few cars on out laps, a couple cars on flying laps. And it looks like the rain is still falling, although the track is definitely starting to get a little bit quicker, I think. MJ Povey out on his lap here, still on that full wet compound of tire. We'll see who goes for the intermediates. If the track is indeed drying up, then the intermediate tire may be a quicker choice, so Povey not going to have enough time if he even wanted to dive into the pit lanes and get a set of those inters. But here he is coming across the line, goes back in front, a 156.167. So raising the bar significantly there on that provisional pole position. Got Onslaught, who is provisionally on the second row, P4. We got El Gloverino also in P7. We do have green-walled intermediate tires for him there. And a couple of cars on outlaps. Wall Street Gay Bear, Habs Fan Nick, the Kel 89, and AWD Turbo Guy all on outlaps of their own. It looks like some have opted for that intermediate tire at this stage of the qualifying session. So let's see if they can make it work. El Gloverino, full second faster already than his previous best time. So it does look like those intermediate tires are coming around to a situation where you can really push on them a lot harder. Looks like, who's he rolling up to? Looks like Wall Street Gay Bear might be who he's rolling up to, or Sam Beam. It's one of the Mercedes. Looks like he's having some connection latency there as he's kind of wiggling his way around, but a big improvement thus far on his laps. Just has a couple of corners left to go. We'll see where he goes on that intermediate tire. Should improve pretty significantly. Only one corner left to go. Should be around the 57-second mark. And yeah, that puts him provisionally up into P3. So the intermediate tires really coming around for him. Stanya retiring out there by turn 7. So it looks like he has had enough of this session here. Quimulus also retiring from this one. Unable to improve on that 102.2. So he will stay right now provisionally P11. Racer 04 on that full wet compound of tires, still not opting for those intermediates. Might not have had the opportunity to come in. We'll see if he's able to improve. Definitely tough when the weather gets changeable like this to really turn a good lap time. He is a good second up almost on his previous best because the wet tires can generate a little bit too much heat and start to overheat and lose their traction once the track starts to dry out a little bit. It does look like the intermediate tire is faster overall, but it's all about making it throughout the full lap. It's very easy to invalidate a lap and also easy to find yourself in a barrier, as a few cars have done already. As Racer 04 back end really stepping out on him. That might have cost him his whole advantage, and he may have some significantly overheated rear tires. Voki calling it a session there, 58.87. We are with Wall Street Gabriel, 1.6 seconds up on his previous best lap already. That's going to put him in the conversation for that provisional pole position, or would be pole, as he's got a Ferrari behind him. That's El Gloverino. We'll see where Wall Street can go if he's able to put himself on pole position. Yellow flags just ahead of him from his teammate going a little bit slowly through those last couple of corners, but it looks like he's not going to catch him up to effect. And he does. He goes a 155.903, jumps into pole position. It's only a couple of cars left to cross the start-finish line to end this session here. Wall Street on pole. Habs fan Nick, where can he improve to? Goes up P4, 157.439. Golly Mooms in the Red Bull, unable to improve, stays P9 on that 159. So AWD Turbo Guy, the only one yet to set a valid lap time. Oh, he looks like he's taken too much curb there, and that has invalidated that lap. AWD now just straight retiring from the session as he is unable to set a lap time for this Grand Prix. So unfortunately, he's going to be starting from the back of the grid of these 17 drivers. But Wall Street Gabear on pole position, nobody else to take it away from him. And now that is going to mean your grid rundown. Wall Street Gabear takes pole. MJ Povey shares the front row with him. We've got a Ferrari-powered second row, the Ferrari of Fast 6 driver, and the Alfa Romeo of Habs fan Nick, the other Ferrari of El Gloverino, P5. The Kel 89 in Racing Point up in P6. On slot 33, P7. Voki in P8. Golly Mooms, P9. Racer 04 rounds out the top 10. The other Red Bull of Chuck SRQ, P11. Quimbulus in the Williams of P12. MD the first in the Haas, P13. Sambeam, P14. Stania in the McLaren, P15. Alejandro Hayes, P16, and AWD Turbo Guy will have his own back row, P17, unable to set a valid lap time. But Wall Street Gabear in the wet as the conditions started to dry up and he went out on that intermediate tire. And you can see just how much those intermediate tires improved at the tail end. MJ Povey, a Fast 6 driver, probably would have taken pole if they were able to get on those inters, but opted to stay out on those wet compounds. And as a result, they will be P2 and P3. But now with that little wrinkle, we should keep an eye out for the race strategies as we get ready to head onto the grid, because with this wet qualifying, it means nobody has a designated qualifying tire to start on for this dry race. So everybody's going to have free choice of tire and free choice of strategy. So we'll see whether people opt for the soft tire early, the medium compound, or if they go with something completely different. There's plenty of options for both a 1 and 2 stop around this track, both very competitive. But we'll see with the 2 stop, cars will have to be able to race and make overtakes, and this is a notoriously difficult track to make overtakes on. Aside from that one DRS zone, really going to have trouble making your way past other cars. So we'll look and see what tires everybody goes on to at the start of the race here, getting on the grid, and we'll see how they make their moves throughout. And of course, with all the walls around, plenty of opportunity for safety cars. So look to see if everybody's able to make it through turn 1 cleanly when the cars are all bunched up. Otherwise, somebody may drop it on their own and cause a safety car. So keep an eye out for that potential wrinkle in the strategy. But 30 seconds about left to go as everybody's getting their strategies dialed in, their fuel loads loaded up, and loading their cars out onto the grid. 20 seconds left for them to do that, and we'll have to see how many front wings everybody goes through as well. Because even in a dry session, a little tap of the wall can absolutely ruin your front wing, and that could be a big problem for your strategy throughout the entire race. Here we are as MJ Povey leads the field away for the formation lap, or Wall Street Gay Bear rather. MJ Povey pulling away a little sooner, it looked like. But it looks like they are both on the red-walled soft compounded tires. I believe Fast 6 driver behind them looked to be on a set of red tires. And then there's Habs fan Nick, the first of the medium tire options. Racer 04 and Chuck SRQ coming together on the formation lap, so that's going to send them straight to the pit boxes. Or the grid boxes, rather, not the pit boxes. They get to still start the race. But that is going to mean cold tires for them getting away from the line. So everybody else is going to have this full lap to get everything heated up and warmed up and good to go. Otherwise, everybody else, they are going to have a tougher time getting off the line with those cold rear tires. But as we said, red walls on the first 3 drivers, all going for that soft tire, opting for that 2-stop strategy. We'll see if we work our way down through the grid, what other tires everybody else is running on. It looks like another yellow wall for El Gloverino. We'll see if we can get a glimpse of the next cars down the list. Now, drivers to look out for, especially as this wet qualifying has shaken things up. Voki a bit out of position in P8. Golly Moom's a continuous podium sitter for Division 1. Also, P9 has some ground to make up. An AWD Turbo guy who has a couple of Division 2 wins is going to be working his way from the very back of the field. But El Gloverino on that yellow wall looks like the Kel is on that soft compound. Hey, there we go. Jeppy is giving me the tire rundown. Onslaught on the mediums. Golly Moom's on the mediums. Racer 04, Quimbulus, and AWD Turbo guy. So good split between soft and medium tire runners. Now, one thing that we saw during the PC division run was that some of the drivers that started on medium tires still went with a 2-stop strategy, but instead went 2 sets of mediums and then a soft to finish the race off. And obviously that got thrown off because of the rain in their race. An exciting conclusion to that one, but it looks like Wall Street getting on the grid, and we're waiting for the last few cars to make their way through the final corners and get set up on the grid before those green flags wave, the red lights come up, and then the red lights go out to start this race. Well, cars getting their last burnouts in to get the last bit of temperature in those rear tires to try and lead them away. Here, everybody on the grid now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights are up. We'll wait for the cars to make their first move. As lights go out, MJ Povey gets a little bit of a better start than Wall Street, and MJ Povey's going to have the inside. Povey, though, and Fast 6 driver making his way down Wall Street. Wall Street from the pole position has lost 2 positions. It comes together with Fast 6. He's managed to keep the car going forward, but a little contact, and then a big wreck behind. Cars dropping back. Alejandro, Sam Beam, Habs fan Nick falling all the way back down. There's been a coming together through turns 1 and 2. We'll see who's been affected. Quimbulus and MD, the first switching back positions back and forth. Quimbulus falling down and losing track position there. But coming out of that first absolute melee, MJ Povey, Fast 6 driver, Wall Street Gay Bear, and the Kel 89 leading the field away. Voki dropping down, Quimbulus dropping down even further. AWD Turbo guy making his way up the field even more. So it looks like AWD has managed to keep himself clean, but Quimbulus, Voki, as Quimbulus falling down even more, almost certainly has some wing damage in his first lap there. Fast 6 overcooking that entry just a little bit. MJ Povey opening up about a 1-second gap now. So he's just outside of that DRS range. Wall Street Gay Bear, they're staying within that 1 second of Fast 6 driver. Those top 3 on those soft compounded tires making good moves. The Kel 89 up in P4. So Habs fan Nick unfortunately caught up in an early incident there. Drops from P4 on the grid on now P16. We'll look to see who is going to come into the pit lanes as we finish off this first racing lap. But Onslaught now looking at the Kel ahead. Different tire compounds between these two. The Kel 89 should have a little bit of extra pace early, but the Onslaught, if he can stay tight, should have an opportunity to attack. And DRS is not enabled yet. That is a lie from the race director. We're getting that lovely glitch where the host teleports to first place on the timing sheet, even though it's very obvious that Onslaught is still right behind the Kel 89 as things are a bit out of order. But I can tell you, MJ Povey leads for Fast 6 driver, Wall Street Gay Bear, and the Kel 89. And usually it sorts itself out by the end of the lap or so, as cars are still kind of bouncing around. MD the first now showing hit the front, even though we are certainly not in the front. There he goes, drops back down, and we're back normal. But Quimulus, Sambeam, both into the pit lanes. Looks like Habs fan Nick has stayed out after dropping down, so maybe just getting caught up and having to let the field go by him rather than actually picking up any damage. But Quimulus and Sambeam now having to make a different strategy than what they came into the race for work and try and see if they can work their way back up through the field. Kel 89 running out very wide. Onslaught with that overtake mode on. Going around the outside. Woo, contact between the Kel and Onslaught. And that hopefully did not cause any damage to Onslaught. We've got yellow flags again. El Gloverino dropping down the field. In Sector 2, Sector 3, it looks like he has had a single car off there, so that is unfortunate for him. We will see if he has picked up damage or if he has just gone around, so keep an eye out for the pit lane notifications for him. But out in front, MJ Povey is only 8/10 out. Fast 6 drivers managed to close it back up, although MJ Povey setting the fastest lap of the race that time by. Wall Street Gay Bear has dropped to 2.2 seconds back, but now DRS is enabled. And Fast 6 driver is in a position where he will be able to make an attack on MJ Povey. Now, very tough track to overtake on this straight here. This DRS zone is probably your best opportunity for an overtake, as you see the letterbox open in that rear wing. Grabs the slipstream, using that overtake. Not going to close up just enough in order to make a move that time by, but big lockup as he's coming down there. Luckily, flat spots are not modeled in the game. Otherwise, I would assume some drivers would be taking a few more pit stops than they would in the leagues now. But Gollymooms in P6 just behind the Kel 89. And Racer 04 and the other Renault is working his way up. Onslaught has made his way past the Kel permanently now. Has already opened up about a 2-second gap, and now Gollymooms trying to make his way through. Has a little look there, but not a good opportunity to overtake. He's just got to kind of settle down and get a good run off of this hairpin in order to utilize this shorter DRS. So not an ideal overtaking location, but if you can get the run, you can make it work. Again, this time just using that DRS to stay close to the Kel 89. Fast 6 driver still hanging inside that 1 second margin from MJ Povey out front. Singapore, one of the longest races on the calendar, still, all 50% as normal, but because of the length of the lap and the speeds that you take it at, the slower speeds, it's very much the antithesis of Monza. It's 31 laps, so still a tremendous distance to cover, but with the lap times being in the 1-minute 40s range, really tough to grind this one out. It's a very grueling race to take part in. Racer 04 getting close enough on Gollymooms, but with Gally having the DRS off of the Kel in front of him, not a door opening for Racer 04. Alejandro Hayes goes down behind MD the first. And Voki is in P10, now P9 as he moves past Stanier. Alejandro Hayes, though, getting back past MD the first. They've got a battle that's raging back and forth. Quimulus and Sambeam, 25 seconds off the back of the pack, a real amount of ground for them to make up. Both of them, I'm sure, praying for a safety car to come out as the Kel and Gollymooms now side by side. A little bit of a touch, and that's got to make Racer 04 get out of it to avoid some collision. Looks like he's kept his front wing alive. But Gollymooms and the Kel racing very hard to try and hold positions there. Although around this time, 4 laps in, you'll start to see those soft tires start to degrade. Really only good for the opening 5 to 7 laps around this particular track. And he's gone very deep. And that's definitely contacted the wall there. That's cost him 2 positions from Racer 04 and Chuck SRQ. But has he gone in soft enough to avoid wing damage? It looks like the end plate still is all right. But it's very easy to outbrake yourself into some of these corners and not get that front end turned around. But so now we've got Onslaught chasing down Wall Street Gay Bear. Gollymooms 3 seconds back of him. Racer 04 within the DRS, as is Chuck SRQ. So that Red Bull Renault sandwich right now definitely shaping up to be a bit of a battle. The Kell dropping off of that fight a little bit, allowing Voki to get into the picture, who is in P9. Chuck looks to have overcooked it just a little bit, just run him out a little bit wide. That's cost him some ground, and here we are jumping back up with Fast 6 and MJ Povey. Fast 6 closing up to about a half a second after that last DRS zone. It is very much follow the leader through these next few little sections here. Very tough to make an overtake happen. And looking down the field, looks like MD the first about to make an overtake happen on Alejandro Hayes. You see that flip on the timing tower there, so very close for those two. Back and forth. Habs fan Nick going past AWD Turbo Guy, taking back P13. So Alejandro Hayes back past MD the first. The position just outside the points is turning into a real scrap, as now from 11th down to P15, there's not a second separating any of those cars, as AWD actually just falls just outside of the second, but a big DRS train happening right there. And hopefully they can get that sorted out. Otherwise, they're going to lose ground to Stanya, who is P10, if they're trying to collect that last point available now that we're running those combined standings. Now, since we've run all races but the first in Australia as this combined format, and we've been keeping track of the points separately, we do have all the results and no necessary speculation on how cars would perform through those 6 races, but what has been decided is there's a vote going on for another track to be added during our next off week. In order to run that, just toss the Australia results, which is unfortunate since Habs fan Nick made his debut podium there this season. First race of the season, got onto the podium, and that one's getting now tossed out, but we're going to look to have another race to make it the full 12 race calendar with the combined divisions going forward. So no more having to speculate about where cars are as far as their division standings or making pit strategies based on your division standing. Now it's just straight up and not anything to worry about. Voki and Alejandro Hayes diving into the pit lanes. The first two, I would say, rather more scheduled pit stops, as lap 6 is in the window for those soft compounds if they're coming in on that. But the two Renaults scrapping it away, as it looks like Racer 04 has made his way past Chuck SRQ. Or rather, Golly Moons has made his way past Onslaught. So now it's an even thicker, it's a double thick Red Bull Renault sandwich, with both the Red Bulls being the bread and the Renaults being the engines and the meat. As we may see a Red Bull Renault return next season in Real World F1 soon, with Honda announcing their decision to pull out of F1 after the 2021 season. Speculation still abounds as to whether Red Bull will be purchasing the intellectual property to those Honda power units and developing themselves, or if they are going to be going back to Renault, as Racer 04 going around the outside and making a move on his teammate Onslaught. What a daring maneuver, manages to make that stick. So tremendous racing between those two in an area which is not really made for overtaking. Very brave maneuver from Racer 04, and is living up to his name by being quite racy, I would say. After those pit stops from Voki and Alejandro Hayes, that's put them back behind Quimbulus, a 2-second gap from Voki to Quimbulus. Fast 6 driver, though, with MJ Povey in front, DRS and Slipstream still trying to find a way to get past into turn 7. Really is his best opportunity to make a move happen, but he's just not able to do it. Stanya, though, looks to have dropped down the few positions, is into the pit lane. And he's picked up a 5-second speeding in the pit lane penalty, unfortunately. So that is going to come back to haunt him later on in this race as he makes his second pit stop and has to wait for that 5 seconds. But Fast 6 driver still on those soft compound tires, really tucked up behind MJ Povey, although it looks to have glitched and lost a little bit of ground there, or he wasn't even that close to begin with. Really hard to tell with some of the long distance internet problems we've got. That DRS allows him to close right back up. And Sambeam, though, looks to have made another pit stop. He is well off the back of the field now, so unfortunate day for him. Struggles in qualifying and then now has had a tough start to this race. 7 laps in to this 31-lap Grand Prix, but the battle at the front is spicy. And we will see if Fast 6 can make a good move through this final section of corners, get a good run through turn 1. Now, if you can really nail it, though it looks like MJ Povey opting to come into the pit lanes now. So that is going to give Fast 6 driver. Now we'll see whether the undercut or the overcut ends up being more powerful. It was only about a half a second difference between Fast 6 behind MJ Povey. We will see after Fast 6 comes into the pit lane what he will do, and we'll also check and see what strategy MJ Povey is opting for. It looks like the yellow walled medium tires are going on to his car there. No wing damage to be changed, and he is back underway. Golly Mooms goes through, Racer 04 goes through, and it looks like Wall Street Gay Bear into the pit lanes as well. An Onslaught going through, the other Renault. Chuck SRQ picking up a speeding in the pit lane penalty. The Kel is also into the pit, so the soft tire runners now trying to make their first pit stops. Fast 6 driver, though, still out on that starting set of soft tires. Looking down the field, looks like Voki and Quimbulus have made their way past the pit group there, and Quimbulus battling with Voki. Voki only 2/10 back, and since they've passed all the pit drivers, that means they were going down the DRS straight there, and it looks like, though, Voki unable to make that overtake happen in that first DRS. Now as they get ready to head to the second one, we will keep an eye on those delta times to see as they fight it into turn 7. As Voki closes to within a 10th. But it looks like not able to get that job done that time, so he is still right up behind Quimbulus on fresher tires. And here comes the Fast 6. Is he going to take this time to dive in? MJ Povey going past Onslaught. And yes, it looks like, yeah, Fast 6 driver into the pit entry there. We will see where he comes out, whether the overcut running long worked or if the undercut of MJ Povey is going to put him back in front by a bigger margin than he started with. Looks like Fast 6 also opting to go onto that medium compounded tire. Nice clean stop there. MJ Povey, though, picking up a 3-second multiple warnings penalty as Fast 6 driver now trundling down that long pit lane. Golly Mooms is through. Racer 04 is through. MJ Povey goes through. And once we get those live timings up, we will see how much time an Onslaught swings it around the outside of turn 1 as Fast 6 is getting out of the pit lane. It looks like the undercut has been mighty. MJ Povey now about 5.3 seconds clear of Fast 6 driver. After they pitted just one lap different from a half a second lead, MJ Povey now picks up a full 5 seconds on him. So the undercut proving to be pretty significant on those fresh tires there. Voki picking up multiple warnings penalty there, still tucked up behind Quimbulus, who is holding the last points paying position. Still all 17 drivers running in this race. Sam Bean closing up on Stanya a bit there. MJ Povey still leading Fast 6 driver for the virtual lead of this race. Golly Mooms and Racer 04 still have to come in, and MJ Povey looking to make his way past Racer 04. Still about a 5.5 second gap back to Fast 6 driver, but not enough for Povey to make it through there. Racer 04 getting a little wide on the exit there. MJ Povey trying to find some clean air to make a move through. He's taking a lot of track limits. Ooh, Racer 04 wide on the entry. This is a tough overtaking zone as they get ready to head under the grandstands. Racer 04 smartly gets on the brakes a little earlier, backs out of it. It's so tight into that corner. You really don't want to fight that car too hard. Otherwise, you're both going to end up in a barrier. And making the wise decision as MJ Povey carrying a lot more pace and fresher tires. Not necessarily a race you want to continue to battle with at that stage. But MJ Povey picking up the track limits warnings. You saw him kind of running on it. As Quimbulus, speaking of it, picks up a penalty of his own. And it looks like Voki has made his way through Quimbulus now up into P10, dropping Quimbulus back outside the points for today's race. But MJ Povey on those fresh medium tires really charging and chasing down Golly Mooms, not in the 1 second mark at the DRS detection point, but should be by the time they hit the next DRS zone. Golly Mooms still to pit in this race on a starting set of medium compound tires. It looks like AWD Turbo Guy into the pit lanes. That's going to let the Kel through. Chuck SRQ, MD the first, Alejandro Hayes through. And even Stanya might make his way through, depending on how long AWD Turbo Guy is going to spend in the pit lane there. But MJ Povey really wants to get a move on and get past Golly Mooms. got only about 3.5 seconds now to the car behind it. This time he's got the DRS, he's got the drag race done, and the overtake deployment, so that's got him through back into the overall lead of this race, and is now going to try and open up that gap while Fast 6 driver tries to maneuver his way through the 2 cars that MJ Povey has passed. Fast 6 driver caught up behind Racer 04, not able to make a move just yet. Same tire compound, very different tire lives between the two. MJ Povey had to be pretty brave to stick it up the inside to get past Racer 04, who's been quite racy. But now Fast 6 should have the opportunity down into turn 1 as Racer 04 dummies to defend the inside, but Fast 6 doesn't fall for it, stays to the inside line there, picks up a little bit of a track limit penalty there. But he's made that move happen, and now he's got another 2.3 seconds to catch up to Gali Mooms, who is another 2.4 seconds back of MJ Povey in P1. So the undercut proving to be strong, opening up that gap between Povey and Fast 6 after they were pretty much nose to tail for the opening stint of this race. Habs fan Nick back up into P6 now after that early incident. He's crawled his way back to the front of the grid. Close to the front of the grid. We got yellow flags in Sector 2. Nobody's moving up and down, it looks like, though. So it looks like whichever car has gone around is either off the back of the field already or has gotten themselves sorted pretty rapidly. But here's Habs fan Nick now closing up on the Renault of Onslaught. And we'll see if he's able to make his way past and up into the top 5 of this race. But with that pit from AWD Turbo Guy, that's put Quimbulus up into P10, Voki P9, El Gloverino holding down P8, Wall Street Gay Bear P7 after starting on pole position. Habs fan Nick, Onslaught, Racer 04, Fast 6 driver now only 2/10 back of Gali Mooms, and MJ Povey leading by 4.4 seconds. Habs fan Nick very late on the brakes, a bit of a lockup. That's going to cost him some ground. Racer 04 swinging back around, and ooh, Habs fan Nick chopping the nose to defend. No contact between the two, but now racing side by side coming in. And it looks like Fast 6 has now made his way past Gali Mooms as MJ Povey sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:39.87. So now Habs fan Nick on those fresher medium tires, looking to strike out ahead of Onslaught there and chase down his teammate of Racer 04. Wall Street Gay Bear has gotten himself onto the back of this train as well, so looking to recover from the troubles in the early stint there. It looks like he is on the hard compound of tires, so he may be trying to go to the end of the race from where he is at, so he's not going to be making another pit stop. Otherwise, can't imagine why he would go onto the hard tire if he's expecting on making another pit stop. It would be much quicker to be on that medium, but DRS open, but not able to make the move on Onslaught because Onslaught had DRS from the car ahead of him. El Gloverino now making his pit stop, diving in, dropping back to P14 at the moment. Racer 04 picking up another penalty there. As Wall Street Gay Bear on those hard compounded tires shown very good pace behind those mediums, sticking with them quite nicely. We'll see if he is able to make his way through Onslaught down this next DRS detection zones. Very tight up behind the gearbox, having a little bit of a lift as they head down. Swings very wide. Ooh, Onslaught's made a little bit of contact with that inside wall, and now with the overtake, with the DRS, should be an easy move for Wall Street Gay Bear to make that one, although Onslaught fighting back, although Wall Street much later on the brakes able to sweep around from the outside and take that position. Only lost about a second and a half to Habs fan Nick in front of him, so he should have the opportunity to close that one up. Those hard tires seeming to be working very well for Wall Street at this point. Fast 6 driver, though, setting the fastest lap of the race now, taking it away from MJ Povey as he's got 5.5 seconds to close it now. Gali Mooms and Racer 04 into the pit lane to make their stop of the race. They started on the medium tire, so I would expect they'll be slapping on those hard compounds and going to the end. That has effectively reversed the running order of the two Renaults. It looks like Sam Beam just getting out of the way from the blue flags. Unfortunate for him in that other Mercedes seat. Voki up past Gali Mooms and Racer 04 in the pit lane as well, as does Quimbulus goes through, although it looks like Gali Mooms has come out just ahead of Quimbulus. So it's split those two. Quimbulus up into P8 now. with Racer04 and the Kel 89 behind him, rounding out the top 10. We still have Wall Street catching up with Habs Van Nick, staying within that 1 second mark to try and make that DRS work. Habs Van Nick, though, 22.9 seconds off of Fast 6 driver, who is running in P2. Now, MJ Povey and Fast 6 have opted for that two-stop strategy, so Wall Street could come into play in this race late, depending on how quick they are on those stints and how well he is able to preserve those tires. But Voki has done quite a good job of recovering from being punted around to the back, as has Habs Van Nick early in that race. They had a bit of a coming together in turn 1, but have recovered decently. It looks like they managed to escape without wing damage. Not quite so lucky for Sambeam and Quimbulas in that turn 1 incident, picking up damage and pitting after that first lap. But thus far, no safety cars. No safety cars, no VSEs, and Habs Van Nick diving into the pit lanes. That's going to allow Wall Street to get through and now have clean air ahead of him to try and chase down the group of MJ Povey and Fast 6 driver. We do have a yellow flag in Sector 3, though, as Onslaught's into the pits as well. Voki goes up into P4. Gollymooms moves up into P5. Quimbulas into P6. Sambeam, though, pitting again, picking up another 5 seconds, speeding in the pit lane penalty. But Quimbulas now right up behind Gollymooms, inside of that 1 second mark. Now Quimbulas on those hard tires he's put on after lap 1. Gollymooms on much fresher medium tires there, but here's the DRS is open. Quimbulas in that slipstream, trying to find a way, goes to the outside. Gollymooms defends to the inside. Similar on brakes. Gollymooms on the hard tire as well, and Gollymooms squeezes him out and does not allow him to get through, so Quimbulas has to tuck right back in. So they're on the same compound of tire, although Gollymooms much fresher at this stage, being put on much later than what Quimbulas had to do after taking that wing damage. You can see just on the exit of that section how much that outside wall comes up on you if you're not careful and carrying a little too much speed. Understeer is an absolute killer around this track, so you have to be very careful. Although with the final corner, it's such a quick flick in the left direction that you really need a lot of rear plantedness, otherwise the car just spins through there. So you have to kind of suffer through some understeer over the majority of this track in order to try and make a mistake. Quimbulas, though, has fallen outside of that 1 second mark after really hanging with Gollymooms, has put up a bit of a scrappy lap coming through the final sector and has lost a good 1.5 seconds over the course after nearly taking the position off of Gollymooms. Has dropped 1.7 seconds back, so very scrappy lap from him there on those hard compounded tires. Maybe starting to struggle with them just a little bit. But Habs Van Nick and Alejandro Hayes now battling it out for P9 and P10. Gel Gloverino 2.8 seconds back the road to try and catch this group up to go for points as well. Out in front, MJ Povey still leads from Fast 6 by about 5 seconds. Wall Street Gay Bear 29 seconds back of them, so it looks like the front two are kind of running away from the field, and that's kind of to be expected with Wall Street on that hard compounded tire, and MJ Povey and Fast 6 on the medium, so they should be turning in a little bit quicker laps, but might be that they're just a little bit too quick, and Wall Street will fall outside if he's going with that one stop. But here's Habs Van Nick with the DRS open, Alejandro Hayes defending significantly to try and fight that back, and they're side by side into the braking zone there, and a little bit of a touch between, and ooh, that's gotten him into the wall as they touch wheel to wheel. And that is Habs Van Nick with more wing damage. Looks like he was luckily ghosted, otherwise Onslaught would have caught some serious damage there. And virtual safety car is out. Even though Habs Van Nick has gotten himself moving again, the VSC has been called. We'll see if anybody, Racer04 is into the pit lanes under the VSC, so in a proper position to take advantage of it with that reduced penalty from being right there under the VSC. As everybody's slowed down, the race is neutralized and cars will circulate at about 40% of the normal race speed. Everybody's got to keep to a delta on their dash to make sure that they do not speed or go too quick, and they're constantly got to keep that in the green. But Habs Van Nick now trying to circulate his way back around to the pit lane to get that new front wing. Voki going into the pits. So he is also going to take advantage of this VSC. That's going to let Quimulus and Gallimums through, so that's going to move them up into P4 and P5. So far, Quimulus has done well to recover after that lap 1 incident, put him all the way at the back of the grid. But it looks like DRS is now enabled. The racing has gone green, and everybody is on the move again. We got yellow flags in Sector 1 just after the restart, and we'll see who that is. It looks like Quimulus has dropped 4.3 seconds off of Gallimums instantly. It looks like he may have had contact with a wall or something, so it looks like he's fallen way off the pace in that Sector 1 incident. Now Voki, out on a fresh set of medium tires, was in a perfect position. I think he was able to get back on track just as that VSC was ending. He's in P9 though, with about half race distance still to go. Habs fan Nick now falling down in the pit as he's getting that new front wing changed. But Stanya and Sambeam now together kind of near the back of the field. Sambeam 6.8 seconds back of Stanya, who is minute 10 off the pace, has had a very tough day after a great debut in Monza. Has had a rough time with the walls here in Singapore and has had to make a couple of extra pit stops. We still have another yellow flag in Sector 1, and Racer 04 has retired from the session as Voki is diving up the inside of Alejandro Hayes. That battle was scrapping early, and Alejandro's been fighting the overtakes pretty significantly, but Voki imposing his will there, as Alejandro Hayes was the one who came together with Habs fan Nick and put that wing damage on him. Now Voki trying to run away. He's got those fresh tires though to make up the ground, and after he had been held up by Quimulus in that earlier stint, is going to try and charge his way back up through the field. Quimulus now 10 seconds back and into the pit lane, so yeah, it looks like he's picked up some damage, and that's going to let the Kel, MD the first, Voki, Alejandro, and likely El Gloverino through as well. And perhaps even Onslaught will make his way past Quimulus. A fairly long time you spend in the pit lanes here. You lose a good 26 seconds on a pit, then plus the front wing change is going to be a significant amount of time lost for Quimulus, as he is now back outside of the point. So after having charged his way all the way up into P5, is now back outside the points after what looks to be a mistake on the VSC restart. Cold tires, the real problem. Habs fan Nick, connection problems glitching around there. And he's got Chuck in his sights, looking to get a good exit off the final corner and open that DRS. We got yellow flags in this sector here, so no overtaking, even if he does get the run ball, though it looks like it's gone green once again. He's a little late on the turn in there. It looks like tough to watch as he's glitching around, but gets a run on the inside of Chuck. SRQ is going to try and hang it out around the outside. No, he's going to tuck in, try and cut back, and use that overtake, that DRS to get up the inside, side by side. Very dangerous getting side by side with somebody coming into that right-hand kink just because that wall is so tight, but Habs fan Nick able to make that overtake stick up into P13 now. Now looking up the field, Fast 6 driver only 3.2 seconds back of MJ Povey now. Wall Street Gay Bear though 36 seconds off of that lead. Gallimums now 10 seconds back. The Kel 89 another 14 seconds back. So the top of the field is very stretched out until you get to MD the first and Voki, who are chasing down the Kel 89, who's on those fresh tires for Voki. So look for him to try and make his way past MD the first if he doesn't get stuck in this DRS train. But El Gloverino now catching up to Alejandro Hayes. He's going to have that DRS, has gotten a very good run off of that final corner. Having a look to the inside, not quite enough. Voki has made his way past MD the first. And El Gloverino close to making an overtake stick on Alejandro, but not quite there. Both on that, looks like that same compound. No, rather, El Gloverino on the soft tires, so it looks like he is going to go for a raw pace. Another good exit that's going to allow him to put the power down. Slipstreaming, DRS is open. He's got the inside line for turn 7 on the brakes, able to get that car pitched in and fully clear of Alejandro Hayes before they hit that turn 7 mark. Further up the field, MD the first now just a little bit behind the Kel 89. Voki has made his way past the Kel. Though Onslaught and Alejandro Hayes still right behind El Gloverino here. Onslaught using that overtake mode. Fairly low left in the battery, although he's got a very good run now trying to fight with Alejandro. They're able to go around the outside. Happens to Nick being disconnected there, so it looks like the robot will take over for him from this stage of the race. It's been a tough day for Nick thus far, as you see Alejandro getting the back end a little bit wide on the exit of the corner there, getting a little bit loose. Loosey-goosey. Looking up and down the field, the closest battles are the one you're looking at here, Onslaught on El Gloverino. It looks like Onslaught's gotten a tremendous run. El Gloverino trying to get into the pit lane and having to cut his way across the track, going behind Onslaught safely there. And the other close battle is MD the First, right behind the Kel 89. Voki now only 10 seconds back of Gallimooms. He's putting a real charge on as Alejandro Hayes gets into the pit lane, as does El Gloverino, and that's going to allow Quimbulus to go back through. The big winners today, Alejandro Hayes, 6 positions up, right next to El Gloverino, who is unfortunately the big loser of the day, losing 6 positions from the start, but has had some troubles with contact and has had to take some front wing damage. So not an ideal day for El Gloverino in the Ferrari, although Fast 6 driver, his teammate, sitting P2 rather comfortably, although coming into the pit lanes, as is MJ Povey. They're both putting on a fresh set of tires. Looks like to try and finish this one off. MJ Povey onto a set of medium compound to do the final stint of the race here. You see Fast 6, I believe, also went onto the medium compound of tires, so they come back out. No undercut or overcut for them this time. They're able to stay in their running order and about the same gapping. But that's going to allow Wall Street Gayberry, you can see, big amount of time he's closed up. Now only 13 seconds back of those top spots. He is rather comfortably on the podium at this stage, 10 seconds ahead, or 11 seconds ahead rather, of Gallimooms for P3. So a very good drive from Wall Street. Like, as I've said, very good raw pace. Struggled with the consistency in some of the early races of this season. Set a lot of fastest laps because of issues where he took some damage and had to make late pit stops, but turned in very good pace on those soft tires. Now showing good pace overall and managing to keep that car nice and clean throughout the duration of this race so far. We've got MD the First and the Kel 89 into the pit lanes. Quimbulus up into P7 now because of it, and only 7.5 seconds back of Onslaught. So he is reeling him in on after making that pit stop for damage. Alejandro Hayes is the closest battle on the track right now, with AWD Turbo Guy closing up. Only 3/10 back there. We have another one inside the second, MD the First and the Kel 89, who have been fighting quite a bit today. It looks like Alejandro Hayes and AWD Turbo Guy swapping positions back and forth there. Looks like, though, Alejandro has made that one stick. He's going to try and get away from AWD Turbo Guy, but Fast 6 driver with 4.8 seconds to close down to try and chase down the race win here. Fast 6 driver has podiumed in every race that he has taken part in this season, with 1 win and several P2s to his name. You can see MJ Povey there. He's going to get a glimpse of him as he comes out of that corner. But looking to keep that run of podiums going and put himself still firmly in the conversation for the Drivers' Championship. MD the First and the Kel 89 still within a second of each other. Chuck SRQ 1 second back of El Gloverino. But at this point, most drivers should be out on the tires they're going to finish the race on, unless somebody has a tremendous gap behind them and is not in position to attack the car in front. You may see somebody dive in and go for that set of fresh soft tires, which everybody definitely has from the wet qualifying session, and go for that fastest lap of the race. Although right now it doesn't look like anybody has quite a pit stop window to get in, aside from Chuck SRQ. Ooh, we've got yellow flags in Sector 3. AWD Turbo Guy dropping behind El Gloverino and Chuck SRQ. Looks like he has had an off for his race there. We'll see if that's going to be one that results in damage, or if that is one that he is just going to be a spin that he has to recover from. But MJ Povey setting the fastest lap of the race, and AWD Turbo Guy into the pit lanes, and we only know that because he's been charged with 5 seconds for speeding on the pit lane entry, but Fast 6 driver taking that fastest lap right back. 37.991, the pace amping up front with 9 laps left to go. Golly Moom's closing on Wall Street Gay Bear bit by bit. 10.8 seconds back with 9 laps left to go. They're both on the hard compound of tire. So we'll see if Golly has the pace to get involved for that final podium position. Quimulus has closed up to inside of 4 seconds of Onslaught 33 now with 8 laps left to go in this race. So he may be looking to take another position before this one is all said and done after getting caught up in a lap 1 incident. And Voki has recovered well. Ooh, Chuck SRQ has gone around on the hairpin, and that is going to really compromise his day. And that is the leader of MJ Povey ghosting through Chuck SRQ, who used that reset to track function. He may catch a bit of heat from the stewards for that one. You're not allowed to use that reset to track in this. You need to get your car spun around yourself and really take your time losses on the chin. Otherwise, it's a little unfair to be able to immediately be in the middle of the track, pointing the right direction. As you saw, if ghosting was not enabled, MJ Povey would have absolutely slammed into him from that one. It looks like Chuck has managed to avoid damage after that spin. Looks like, as I was talking about earlier, those wider rear tires, it looks like he might have just caught the inside of the apex wall on the rear tire and spun around. Ooh, Sam Beam retiring from the session. It looks like he's had a collision. Sector 1, there's some yellow flags there, or his car is just pulling off. He's decided, being that far off the back, he's had enough today and is just going to go ahead and park the car. But Quimulus now inside of 1 second of Onslaught on a charge on those medium tires after his incident at the restart of the virtual safety car. It's totally self-inflicted. No one around him. He was battling with Golly Mooms, but just looked like he dropped it and picked up some damage. But here he is closing up on Onslaught, trying to see if he can get in range to make a move happen into turn 1. Real tough rhythm section of the final sector. A lot of 90-degree corners. Got to get everything nailed down. A little short downshift. You can see, though, it's closing up on Onslaught significantly. DRS open. Overtake mode. Swings to the inside as they hit the braking zone, and he is into P6. Has made his way past Onslaught. And Onslaught doing well not to dart to the apex and cause a big incident. Clean racing between the two of them. But now Quimulus has his eyes 22 seconds ahead on Voki with only 7 laps left to go. Although Onslaught is not done yet. He is in the DRS range, although it looks like even with the DRS, he is not closing up on Quimulus. That might be a difference in wing level between those two drivers for overall straight line speed. But now Quimulus just looking ahead to try and bring home as many points as he can after getting tangled up in an early incident and not a great qualifying in the wet for him. A little bit of a lockup into the braking zone for that bridge hairpin, but able to keep the car out of the barriers. And now Voki only 2.2 seconds back of Golly Mooms for P5. Fast 6 driver doesn't seem to be closing on MJ Povey, still hovering at about that 5-second mark, but now we're going to jump over to Voki so he can see that Red Bull ahead of him. Has to make up about another second in order to get inside that DRS zone. But with those fresher tires, should be able to make that move happen. Golly Moom's still on those hard compounds he put on earlier, as has Wall Street Gay Bear. So those two running that one-stop strategy, and you've got Voki on the 2-stop, running those much quicker medium compounds at this stage of the race. But still right around that 2-second margin. MD the first and the Kel 89 still very close as you check the timing screens there. And it looks like he's made his way past the Kel 89, but as we've seen, this race doesn't look like those passes have quite stuck yet today. So is this the time that he finally makes one stick on the Kel 89? And it looks like the gap that he's opened up might indicate so. Both racing points, though, holding the final positions of the points, P9, P10, as we see MJ Povey making his way past one of those racing points to put them a lap down. As MJ Povey still controlling the race out front, 4.6 seconds. Just has to manage that gap, stay clean the rest of the way, and will bring home another race victory. MJ Povey with 3 race victories on the season so far and a P2, much like Fast 6 driver, has podiumed in every race that he has taken part in this season. 3 wins and a second place. Fast 6 driver with 1 win, 2 P2s, and a P3, both of them missing 1 race so far this season. Obviously, MJ Povey missed the Australia race from the Division 1, whereas Fast 6 driver did not. He came on the podium there. But with that one being tossed out essentially with the combining of the divisions, we will look to another track. We're having a vote on which tracks that will be. And that should come in the scheduled off week between after Silverstone coming up next. But the options that are being voted on are Vietnam, China, Spain, Monaco, Baku, France, Hungary, Russia, Mexico City, and Abu Dhabi. So all the tracks that we're not racing on in our season. And of course, Australia could be a return track, although I think we'll see a different track on. A lot of people were upset to see Baku missing after a good race we had last year. Onslaught into the pit lane. So he's dropped down. It looks like he's wasn't going to be able to make it to the end on the tires he had, so he's opting to come into the pit lanes. But Voki still closing up on Gali Mooms for P4. And they're both reeling in Wall Street Gay Bear just a little bit, but here comes Voki. DRS is open. We'll see if he's got the straight line speed to challenge with Gali Mooms, but not quite close enough into that braking zone. He'll have to wait it out again. Or he may even go for a full send in one of these tight corners, as he does have that extra grip from those medium compounded tires, but not quite the tire differential that we saw early in the race. He's gotten a little bit deep there, able to get the car slowed down with that understeer and out of the barriers, but that's cost him a little bit of ground to Kali there. So we'll see if he is able to get a good run out of the final corner, get that traction down. Is closing up, about a half second back now. Overtake is on. Is he going to get close enough? Not quite. You see, just kind of willing that car fast. He's got plenty of battery power to play with. You see that yellow bar behind that overtake that switches on. Still over half power there, so now he's really setting him up. Dirty Air is going to wash him out a little bit wide, but he's able to keep it in. This time with his foot down. DRS open. ERS full overtake mode, swings around the outside of the kink and is in front into the braking zone there. Looks like there was a little bit of contact between the two, so he did not leave that full car's width on the outside, but he has made his way past Gali Mooms there. Onslaught now behind Alejandro Hayes, and Alejandro Hayes been at the center of a lot of battles today, a lot of cars that he's been racing and fighting with, although it looks like Onslaught's gotten a very good exit off final corner, using as much of that slipstream as he can, that DRS, that overtake mode, able to go up the inside on those soft compounded tires, and Alejandro Hayes on those mediums. Not much he can do to defend as Onslaught came in for that fresh set of tires. Only 4 laps left to go in this one. MJ Povey still leads from Fast 6 driver. Wall Street Gay Bear, Voki, Gali Mooms, Quimbulus, MD the First, the Kelly 9, Onslaught, and Alejandro Hayes rounding out the points-paying positions. El Gloverino, Chuck SRQ, AWD Turbo Guy, and the robot of Habs Fan Nick are the last cars running, and the DNFs today, Sam Beam, Racer 04, and Stanier. But MJ Povey managing that gap out front quite well. Just needs to bring the car home for another race victory. Wall Street Gay Bear has fallen significantly off the back. Those hard tires definitely starting to show their age a bit. He just needs to now be looking backwards, essentially, for what Voki is doing behind him, who is now a full second and change clear of Gali Mooms. And after running right behind Gali during the virtual safety car, Quimbulus now 20 seconds back after having to make that extra pit stop. Has done well to chase them back down. The Fast 6 driver now working his way through the lap traffic. Luckily not having to make too many moves to get through it, but with the ghosted, but still having to make his way around those cars. They are, even if you can drive through them, a bit of a distraction mentally. to see those cars is he's still 5 seconds back with 3 laps left to go in this Singapore Grand Prix. Looks like the Racing Point has lifted to let him through. We do still want cars to follow the blue flag rules when it comes to being a car lap down. Even though they're ghosted, they still should get out of the way because, again, it's very distracting to have that car kind of weaving in and inside and outside of you. And getting out of the way just to open up that clear space is important. And we still want to treat the ghosted cars as if they're real cars. Really, the big reason we run ghosting is just to avoid an Esteban Ocon Max Verstappen incident where a car lap down makes a mess of another car. But MJ Povey now closing up on a Haas there. I believe that is AWD Turbo Guy to put him a lap down. Although that might be MD the first. He may have lapped his way all the way up to P7 on the grid. Coming under the grandstands, you can hear the sounds of those cars echoing off back and forth and really trying to ride as much of the curbs as you can. Ooh, he's running a little bit wide there. Maybe those tires are starting to feel a little bit of pain this late in the race here. Only a couple of laps left to go in this one. The closest battle we have on track is AWD Turbo Guy, who's just about a second off the back of Robo Nick. And then we've got Gallimums, who is about 2 seconds off of Voki, although Voki is increasing that gap lap on lap. 8 seconds, though, to catch Wall Street Gaybear. So a bit of a tall order to reel him in at this stage. Gallimums, though, still wants to try and stay within at least that 3-second mark in case there is a differential of track limits penalties. Can potentially jump his way back up into P4 of the race if he's able to stay close enough. But otherwise, as we hit the final stage, no on-track battles really left in this one. We'll keep an eye out. Position changes. Habs Van Nick, obviously the one that's come to the biggest loss, started second row of the grid, had some incidents and some disconnect now. Is 10 stops down, 10 positions down, and you see all the different stops. 4 stops for Chuck, 3 for AWD, 3 for Habs Van Nick, and then a bunch of 1 and 2 stops. A mix. Wall Street Gaybear making that 1 stop work. Gallimums not quite making it work to the same degree that Wall Street did, although he did go a fair bit deeper. Wall Street, though, putting on those hard tires much earlier, all the way from lap 9, whereas Gallimums coming from the medium tire to go onto the hards, so they should have a little bit more life in them than what Wall Street has, although Wall Street's still turning in pretty good lap times overall. I don't think the differential between Gully and Wall Street is changing all that much, although Wall Street is definitely losing touch with the top 2 drivers. Only 5.5 seconds, though, between Povey and Fast 6, so keep an eye out for penalties to maybe decide the winner of the race on that one. I have seen quite a few penalties pop up for MJ Povey, and we've got yellow flags in Sector 1, and MJ Povey is out. MJ Povey is out of this race, and that is going to put Fast 6 driver in the lead, and by almost a full minute. MJ Povey on the second to last lap looks to have gotten it all wrong in Sector 1 and has received terminal damage and is out of this race. So forget the penalties, forget closing up a 5-second gap. Fast 6 driver is now leading this race by almost a full minute over Wall Street Gaybear, and MJ Povey is out of this race. So his run of podiums from races he started is going to come to an end. Now he'll just have a run of podiums from races that he's finished, because now that DNF will lean into that, his first DNF of the season. So unfortunately to see him go out from the lead of the race. Hopefully it wasn't from pushing too hard. He had a huge gap over Fast 6 driver. Now Wall Street Gaybear passing the stalled car of MJ Povey, and we should see the few other cars going through. Voki up now into P3. Gallimums P4. It's going to shuffle Quimulus up into P5. So now Fast 6 driver just needs to gently work the car the rest of the way around. There's no way the only way he would have enough penalties to drop a position would be enough penalties for him to be straight up disqualified. So you don't have to worry about that from Wall Street behind, but Wall Street now having to keep an eye on Voki, who's inside that 6 seconds nearly. So 2 penalty sets will be an offset there. Only one penalty offset for Gali Mooms, just though outside of that 3-second mark. But Wall Street showing still decent pace on those hard compounds of tires on this final lap. Now MD the first passing the wreckage up into P6. You should see the other cars shuffle their way up as the Robo Habs fan Nick is into the pit lane. It looks like he is going to retire the car on the last lap. Interesting choice, or get a new set of tires for the final lap, which is interesting to say the least, what the AI decides to do from time to time. But as Wall Street coming through the final sector here, Fast 6 driver should have already been crossing the start-finish line to take P1, and Wall Street crossing that finish line P2 on his race there. It's interesting, we're not seeing the checkered flags, although it looks like Voki and Gali Mooms crossing the line. Maybe there might be a lap offset. Oh, that's right. Fast 6 is a full minute up, so he is now coming into Sector 3 to finish the lap. That is why the checkered flag's not up. I was not realizing just how far out ahead Fast 6 was. He's just already started the final lap for so long while Wall Street was crossing the line. But now, last few cars are going past the stricken MJ Povey. As Fast 6 now coming through the final corners. You should hear the fireworks start going off. And there they are as Fast 6 takes the win at the Singapore Grand Prix. His second win of the season and a huge boon to his championship challenge. Got Wall Street Gaybert now though coming through the hairpin at the bridge. Still has all of Sector 3 to complete. Voki 5 seconds back of him, and Gali Mooms 5 more seconds back there. Alejandro Hayes, MD the first, the Kel 89, and Onslaught all finishing the race a lap down. Looks like Quimbilson is the last car on the lead lap in this race here in P5. So here we are, Wall Street Gaybert making the last few corners count as the fireworks still go off. A huge win for Fast 6 driver. Massive pace from the front two drivers. Unfortunate to see it come down to a crash for MJ Povey. But here comes Wall Street Gaybert, crosses the line. P2 picks up an overall podium here. Voki crosses line P3. Gali Mooms going to take the checkered flag now and stays P4. So you've got two Ferrari-powered units on the two steps of the podium, and Mercedes. Quimbilus coming through in P5 is going to be the last car to finish this race here. Although on the lead lap, a solid P5 position for him. But Fast 6 driver out in that Ferrari taking charge in the lead of the championship now, I believe, by a few points over MJ Povey after that DNF for the Williams. But Constructors Championship still leaning towards Williams. Quimbilus able to bring home some points there. Not an ideal day. They were looking for much better. But MD the first picking up the in-game driver of the day. And after starting on pole position, Wall Street Gaybert on that alternate strategy didn't have the best overall race pace, but able to make that strategy work and puts himself on the second step of the podium. But after today's results, looking at the overall championship, the combined championship standings now, we have Fast 6 driver in the lead of the championship by 9 points over MJ Povey, 102 to 93. Gali Mooms is in P3, 30 points back there, or 21 points back of MJ Povey. We've got Quimbilus 12 points back of Gali Mooms for P4, and Voki only 4 more points back in P5. Wall Street Gaybert with that podium jumps 3 positions up into P6. He's on 37 points for the season. Racer 04 is 1 point ahead of Onslaught, 27 to 26 for P7 and 8. Chuck SRQ P9 overall, leading MD the first by a single point. Habs fan Nick in P11. The Kel 89 and Alejandro Hayes, the racing points keeping each other company on 10 points in the overall championship. El Gloverino P14 overall is on 2 points. Stanya has 2 points from his debut in Monza. AWD Turbo Guy, Sam Beam, and It's Baker round out the 18 drivers making up this combined championship. We have Silverstone coming up next, and then we will have our replacement race to fill out the grid the week after that. But thank you guys for joining me. If you're looking to drive in the leagues, check out r/F1 Racing League. We're taking on drivers for all 3 divisions of PC, both now the combined divisions of Xbox and the PS4 division. We will see you guys next week. Y'all have a good one.